Our guest for today, Dr. Denise Levine, is an inspiring personality. She has under her belt 34 years in the financial industry with a leading Canadian bank and a PhD in metaphysical sciences. I'm dying to know about that. A panelist pillar on our podcast. She's a transformational educator and an energy practitioner. She's accomplished all of this while single handedly facing and overcoming tremendous family and health challenges. Let's get into it and hear it directly from her. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, Vin and Kirsten.
Our pleasure. We've been looking forward to this for a while. Let's start with the basics. How did you get here? Your journey, your path, the choices you've made. We'd love to know from you.
Okay. Well, I was born in Kitimat, which is northern British Columbia, and within a few years, my mom and I ended up moving down here to Vancouver, or to Richmond, I should say. So I've lived in the Lower Mainland pretty much my whole life. Um, I have a wonderful father who is my stepdad. He was my dad since I was 3. And but he's definitely he's been a huge pillar in my life. Yeah, so went through school, grew up in a Catholic household. That didn't really take too well, much to the disappointment, I think, of my parents now. I originally went to university to study architecture. And so I've been drawing buildings and creating homes. This is all before AutoCAD, and always loved the study of architecture. So, however, my dad and I had a huge falling out when I was just starting school, post-secondary school. And so anyway, suffice it to say, I didn't get to finish my degree, and I decided to just temporarily go work for a bank. And that temporary situation turned into 34 years, incidentally. So I kind of, yeah, kind of worked my way up, got quite a number of different, a lot of different experience, a lot of education in the process as well. Certified financial planner, chartered investment manager, and I could get alphabet soup after my name when it comes to that industry. So really have enjoyed my time doing that, and I still do. So in amongst there, I got married. I had a quite young, 25, which is kind of unheard of these days. Had a child, a beautiful daughter. She was diagnosed with autism when she was 2. And at that time, we happened to live in Ontario. I lived near my grandparents in Windsor, Ontario for 2 years. However, without the presence of the ocean and without the presence of mountains and, dare I say, fresh air and so on, we ended up moving back and got divorced and did some dating. That's a whole other subject. But I do have now, I'm single and I have 2 cats. 3 cats makes you a crazy cat lady, not 2. So I just want to point that out. Also in amongst there, I got sick with Crohn's disease. It was right around the time of the divorce. And that was very, very frightening experience. So I learned how to meditate. I learned how to take a little better care of myself. And in amongst there as well, I changed employers, still working for a big bank. And then not too much in the distant past, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, where I lost my vision. That's how I found out I had it. So that was very startling. And while I've been off from work, I started a meditation business. Once I was able to see again and so forth. And I've been really lucky. This journey is definitely thanks to wonderful friends such as yourselves and my other friends, family. I don't think I could have gone through everything I went through without the wonderful support of those people. And the cats, of course. We don't forget the cats. So, and yeah, that's kind of my journey in a nutshell, if you will.
Wow. Um, I have a few questions about the intro you just covered. Like I want to get into the Crohn's part, but we'll get to that later. Question is, after all of this, who is Dr. Denise Levine today?
Still getting used to the doctor title. It's awesome. So, I think about who I am, and I don't want to create a dating profile by explaining who I am because it's going to sound that way, and I don't mean it to make it sound that way. Um, I am a very curious person. I always have been ever since I was a child. I'm like a sponge. I'm very interested in all different subjects. If you saw how many books I have, I think you'd be horrified. I could fill a library, a small library, with the amount of books. When I did my research for my dissertation, I didn't have to go to the library. I didn't have to go online. I had everything in my home. So love reading, love, um, the outdoors, nature. I do all kinds of sports, golf, hiking, sword fighting, ballet, you name it. Um, you know, I consider myself a little bit of a walking contradiction. I'm definitely, and I'll explain that in a sec, I'm definitely a Libra, where, I see both sides of the equation all the time, have a hard time making decisions at times, and can be just a titch judgmental as well. I'm trying to get past that. I'm also Gen X, which, we're we're survivors. So that's a big part of who I am, is being very independent and so on. But the walking contradiction part is, it's interesting because I'm very social. I love being social, yet I really love being alone. Like, I love my alone time. I'm very logical and methodical, yet I'm open to everything, all ideas. Um, I'm a very loyal person until that trust is broken. Then that changes my scope of things. I consider myself, pretty kind and caring and compassionate. Um, and I don't believe in the phrase seeing is believing. I, I have a very open mind around, some might call it conspiracy theories. I hate that phrase. Very open mind to the idea that, there's other dimensions beyond this. Naturally, my field of study beyond the financial industry is metaphysical sciences. So I'm always looking at everything through a metaphysical lens. So, and that's really evolved and grown and developed in me over my life. And it's kind of, I don't want to say it's at its peak right now, but it's certainly, it's very heightened in my world. So that, I don't know, that kind of gives you a bit of a snapshot of the dichotomy that I truly am.
Yeah. Um, I caught on something you mentioned there, which is about your loyalty.
Mhm.
Sounds like it's been hurt.
Mhm.
Sounds like your trust has been broken, maybe more than once.
Mhm.
What are the pivot points in your life? Your life goes in one direction, something happens, whether it's a new job, new relationship, end of a relationship, trust broken, trust made. These are pivot points which change the very direction of our life. So, my question to you is, can you walk us through some of the main major pivot points in your life? And can you also include in your journey people who've influenced you in a big way?
No, fair enough. Um, there's probably too many pivot points to we'd be here probably all evening. So, one of them, and it's more, I guess, trust or loyalty with my own self, like with my body. Um, I had a doctor say to me, a gastroenterologist, this is 25 years ago. you'll be dead in 2 weeks if we don't do surgery.
Oh,
And this was in the wake, yeah, this was in the wake of being diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is what I got diagnosed with around the time of my divorce. So by then I was in I think it was about 31 or something like that. And I got really sick really fast, and I didn't quite understand what was happening to me. And um, I'm very grateful that I did have the surgery, because I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't. So, and I'll spare you the details of of the surgery itself, but suffice it to say, it did save my life. I'm 5'7". I'm not a small person, but I was 112 pounds when I went into surgery. So I wasn't able to eat. I had the pain. The pain was horrific. Like it was like it was to the point where I actually didn't even want to be here anymore. Like it was just like, okay, somebody take this away. Like it was just horrible. They tried everything, right? So I tried the prednisone and the this and the that and the immunosuppressants, and nothing was working. So so I'll just yada 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 over the surgery, but they had to do a resection in 3 different parts of my small intestine. So anyway, I kind of, I know your question was more around trust and loyalty, but it was really trusting the doctors in this case and trusting more myself, though, to be able to heal from this and learn and move forward. And that is really where everything kind of, in my mind, I just didn't have it anymore, right? They took out everything that was bad. Technically, I'm in remission. Chose to deny that, that I just don't have it anymore, right? That was my thinking. And what it did is it set me on a path towards understanding how the body works, but also really understanding how I work as an individual. We're all part of the same human race. We all have kind of the same body parts and so on, but we all are all different energetic beings. And so this opened me up to a whole new path of learning about how to heal myself in different ways. So I got my hands on everything I could to kind of deviate from that typical medical situation, because what I was told by the surgeon, who did a fantastic job, he said, your case was really bad. You'll be back here probably within the next 5 years. We'll have to take out more. Your life will be shortened. He kind of read me off the statistics, and the bedside manner was a little lacking, to say the least. So I chose to go a completely different path. And part of that is, you talk about people who influence my life. My headstrong, kind of stubborn way of thinking, I'm going to consider it more like strength or courage, if you will, or, that kind of verbiage versus, stubborn, was my grandfather. So my grandfather on my mom's side, he built his own business from scratch. So a lot of his business acumen is what I've also gained, I feel, and I've learned a lot from him. I was very close to my grandparents especially when I lived there for 2 years. I was the oldest grandchild of the oldest daughter, so I got a chance to spend time with them when I went to visit in the summers. I got a chance to spend time with them when they were still young, kind of. And my grandmother, so this is my mom's mom, I learned how to cook from her. She taught me a lot of herbology. I have my own little herbal dispensary in my kitchen instead of a microwave.
mhm.
But she was also very strong in different ways and very insightful. She unfortunately, she lost her sight due to glaucoma. Um, I would say about 10 years before she passed.
Oh,
Yeah, it kind of got worse and worse. I don't think she realized what was happening until it was almost too late. And she used to say to me, I see you, honey. but she couldn't see me, obviously. But she was using what I would consider her third eye, or her intuition, and the connection we had together, to see me, so to speak, right? So, uh, and when I think of other people like my dad, he taught me the appreciation of nature. Like, we have pictures when I was younger, like, it's not just like, oh, Sunday spending the day at the park. We were on like glaciers and stuff. Like, we we use he's a photographer, so there had to be some epic family trip on the Sunday, right? So it was actually super cool. We'd go to Centennial Beach, and there was no sitting on the beach. You didn't sit on the beach. You've walked for miles at low tide. So, and it was just he has been a huge contributor to my love for nature. And I think of my mom. She, like, there is not a malicious bone in that woman's body. She is just truly a very genuine, caring person. And so, when I think of my family, those four individuals in particular, and of course there's my daughter, who is a total inspiration. I'll tell you more about her, if you want to know more. But and then there's all the great friends I mentioned. I'm very, very fortunate to learn something from everyone, and just kind of deal with my adversity, uh, by really honing in on the advice that and you can take or leave advice, but I feel I've always gotten really good advice from the friends and the people in my life. And then, of course, there's there's the people that influence us through books and things. And some of those people are like Louise Hay, just an incredible lady who created her own publishing company, Hay House, which so many helpful books, and authors that go through there that have really helped me: Eckhart Tolle, Joe Dispenza, Freddie Silva. Freddie Silva and Abdul Hakim Awiyan, that is more opening my mind to sacred sites. And do we believe what's really told to us through the history books, or is there another way of looking at some of this, the ancient civilizations and so forth? Pretty much anyone who's opened my eyes to seeing new things are people that influence me. And I have to just add this in, and I might not look at it at the moment, but I've always been a bit of a fashion person. So I'm going to do a shout out to Betsy Johnson, because when she had a shop in Vancouver, uh, she followed me on Twitter for a while, which was kind of cool. I got to know the people that work there, and when the shop closed, unfortunately, I was the last person in the shop buying the last dress in the shop. So, yeah, and my parents were there, and we had like champagne, and we closed that place down. It was pretty awesome. So, lots of people, probably a longer answer than you expected, but just very grateful for all these wonderful people that have really shaped who I am today. Yeah.
Wonderful. Can you go into a little more detail about the Crohn's part? Because I'm sure many of our listeners won't know what Crohn's is and what it does and how it affects.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Crohn's disease is an inflammatory bowel disease, and it can basically show up anywhere from right from the mouth all the way to the very end, so to speak. And so for me, it was the small intestine. And so what happened, the research I did with one of the doctors, one of the gastroenterologists, we surmised that it probably started when I ended up with the H. pylori bacteria. And so I'm just going to be very clear. I don't have a medical background. I'm just very interested in how the human body works. So, but I had the H. pylori bacteria in Ontario, and they gave me a triple therapy of antibiotics to kind of kill it. And what it did, though, is it killed everything, right? The good, the bad, yeah. So not just the bad, but the good. And so that's the theory of what happened to me, is that it then left my gut susceptible to further, further issues. So I was going through a divorce a year after I got back from Ontario. So and then that's when I got diagnosed with the Crohn's disease. Because what was happening is the intestinal walls in my case were swelling up, and food could not get through. So I was sick a lot. Like I was throwing up a lot or vomiting a lot. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And then I ended up losing so much weight. And it's funny because in society, I remember going into American Eagle. And when you go into a change room and the salesperson's all excited because you need a smaller size, right? So I was trying on a size 4, which is very small for me. I'm typically maybe a size 10, let's say. And she goes, "Oh, how are the jeans going?" And I'm like, and I was like, I need a smaller size. And it scared me because I didn't have control over what was happening to my body anymore. Not that we always do, but it should be exciting, right? I'm now a size 2 instead of a size 4. And she got all excited. I broke down in tears and had like a breakdown in the American Eagle dressing room because for me it was frightening. I was very, very scared. It was also so what like I said, they tried everything to help me, like the typical things that you would get. Like in prednisone is it's a steroid and it helped open up those pathways so I could eat. And I was excited about that. But it also has some very adverse effects to it. So I was told if I went on it a third time that it would be eating my bone, like I'd be in for a hip replacement within
Oh,
5 years. It's not good, and I was taking quite a bit of it. So this nice big puffy face, which is probably no different than right now, but I had this skinny little body and this puffy face, and so that's where I finally got told, "Look, we need to do something because this is everything started shutting down. I started losing hair. My organs were starting to have a hard time because I was getting like no nutrients. When I started throwing up water, that's where the massive concern came in, right? And they prepped me for surgery pretty quickly. So with those 3 parts removed, it it like they just resection it with, like I was out for, I don't know, 8 hours. And sorry, this might be a little too much detail, I don't know, but the surgeon said he went through every inch of my small intestines. I'm like, "Oh, that's," you start thinking about it, it's like, "Oh, it's out there, just
mm,
out on the table." Anyway, but they did an amazing job, and I haven't looked back. And part of it is maybe denial, but the other part is I literally have, and I'm knocking on wood as I say this, I haven't been sick with anything like that since. So yeah, so and like I said, I truly believe I don't have it anymore. I talk to my gut all the time, and I'm careful about what I eat. So not extraordinarily careful, but I make sure I take care of myself too. So
I've known you for a while now. We're creeping up on 10 years in some time.
yeah, yeah.
And there's one name that whenever it's mentioned, I just see you light up. So can you talk to us about Antonia, your daughter?
Yes, of course. So Antonia, who I I had when I was 26, is now going to be 29 years old this year. So it's hard to believe. So as I mentioned earlier, she was diagnosed with autism when we were in Ontario at age 2, and it was devastating. I really do feel that took an okay marriage, and it made it weak. It's a lot of stress on a marriage when a child is diagnosed with anything, I think. In Antonia's case, and I know this is controversial, but I'm just going to say it anyway. she lost, because I kept a diary. As a new mother, it was very exciting. And so I was like, oh, she walked today. And, she said mama and dada and all this stuff. So I was keeping track of all of her milestones, both physical and mental. And within a week of getting the measles, mumps, rubella, or the MMR shot, she lost all her mental milestones. Everything was gone. She stopped talking. Now, let me be very clear. I don't believe that it was just the shot, or we'd all be like, we'd all have the same reaction. So, but it wasn't normal what I saw. And at 26 years old, it was very difficult to go up against, some of the medical system, the pharmaceutical company. I didn't know any different. You just kind of accept it. And if I had any advice to anyone today who is going through any kind of diagnosis like that with their child, be vigilant um, in really understanding what's going on. Ask questions, do some research. I didn't have, and the internet, this is really dating me now. The internet wasn't all that old back then. So, it was still not like, and we certainly didn't have anything to do with AI, obviously, right? So it just wasn't a good source of information, and certainly wouldn't be something that I could actively research. And you're busy dealing with the fallout of that. It changed everything. It changed her ability to communicate with us. It changed like that diagnosis. It was devastating, right? It entered us into a whole new world that we didn't know we even had to. You have a child, you think, okay, well, you're going to go through all the regular stuff, right? So that was super super challenging. And, when I think about, like, we've had quite a bit of adversity over the years. When she hit puberty, there was a lot of aggression that came out. She ended up going into care at an early age, which almost broke me as well. At an early age of 13, because it was starting to become very dangerous what was happening, for not just for me, for her more so. And so, if I had any advice for parents, it's just who have older children who have a diagnosis like that, and her diagnosis is probably, you consider it moderate to severe. So she does have some language. It's usually focused around food, and and gift shops. She likes to go to gift shops when we when we go out. She likes to shop like my mom does, her nana. So, but and just lots of different challenges with, the doctors are really fast to medicate and things like that, right? So, it didn't work for her. She had adverse reactions to typical pharmaceutical medication. So I encourage people to look at alternatives as well. And what she takes now, the only thing she takes now is THC and CBD, but in capsules. So it obviously, she's not sitting there smoking it, of course. Yeah, that would not be good. She comes in a, it comes in a capsule form, and it's all regulated by her caregivers. So, yeah, it's been a real journey, but she is amazing. And the one thing when I talk about people who influence me, that kid. Now she's going to be 29, but I'm still going to say that kid. Uh, it could be the middle of winter. Everyone's wearing black and gray and dark colors, but she loves pink, orange, and yellow. So she looks like she stepped right out of like the 80s, because she loves her color. And the cool thing about her, there's many cool things, but the really cool thing is she's not, it speaks to the fact that she can't be conditioned. So I won't go into too much of that from how I see the world, but we get very conditioned to kind of adhering to the norms and so on. She can't be conditioned to that. So she won't go, oh, well, everyone's wearing black. I should probably wear black. She does her own thing. She dances to her own beat and so on. And that to me is a huge inspiration. So, I mean, she has her challenges. We've had our challenges. But we just went swimming. She's a chip off the old block. We just we just went swimming in a very cold ocean a couple nights ago. And you get acclimatized, so it's like, oh, it's not that cold, but it was actually probably we were the only ones. It's usually us and a Russian family that are in there. And anyway, but she's a huge inspiration to me, and I appreciate you asking about her because I think she is actually on a very different level than, and I'd say this about many autistic children or people. Sorry, I keep thinking children in her sake because she's not a child anymore. Even Temple Grandin, who is a very famous autistic individual who has her PhD in animal sciences. She said when she was young, she would look down at her jello and she would see it swirling around. It's like she could see the energy around the jello, if that makes sense. So I feel that, and there's some evidence out there. I mean, we were talking about this not too long ago. There's a lot of evidence out there that that autistic individuals that are kind of on that severe to moderate or moderate to severe scale who are nonverbal are playing in a different space or in a different dimension than the average human being. So yeah, she's a pretty special person, all right. She makes me crazy at times, but but just like my parents do. But but that's family for you. So
Person to squeeze my hat.
Another autistic person.
Yeah.
Completely different kind.
It-
There's thank you. There's another thing about you which which I know and find absolutely fascinating, and it's something I've also done, and she's also done a lot of, and that is traveling. So I know that you've been to Egypt, so have I a few times, and you've explored meditation and you've taken it to another level. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. I my home that I bought 25, is it 25? Yeah, 25 years ago is in massive need of a paint job. I did get new appliances because I had no choice to get new appliances. I cheat on home renos and things like that with travel. I I, I love going on a new adventure. I mean, I started all of this kind of in my 40s, once I was able to do a little bit of traveling. And I inadvertently seek out places that seem to have some sacred value or energy around them. It hasn't always been that way. I mean, I've been on, an Alaskan cruise, but again, that's nature. So it's usually something to do with nature, with a sacred site, the telluric currents on the earth, all kinds of things like that is what I gravitate to. But it's also, there's just so much to see and experience. And you can see I'm already getting animated and excited just talking about it. And I love planning it. I know most people are like, oh, geez. I have a friend I travel with sometimes, and she's like, please feel free to do the planning. But I really enjoy it. And I book everything, and I really enjoy that part. I've been to England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, to the US, Mexico, Greece, Italy, France, Egypt, just to name some spots. It's really, it, for me, it creates perspective. And I always walk away with something. And it's not just like when I happened to go to England the year that the Queen passed away. And it wasn't just the year the Queen passed away, but it was literally the day after she passed away. So I had to juggle a few things there. But I got to spend some time in Avebury, and like all these places, they just hold so much value to me, and just meeting new people and being able to write about it or to be able to create experiences that help people who can't go there travel there on a metaphysical level. And now I'm getting into the meditation stuff, but yeah, so travel is a big thing, and I'm already looking at my trip in January to back to Mexico, and it's going to be with Freddie Silva, which I'm very excited about. He's a researcher and author. He studies a lot of the sacred sites, and I'm very excited about that. So
Thank you. You and I share some commonalities like the travel, financial interests, and of course, your daughter is autistic. I'm autistic, completely different kind, but still.
yeah.
What you have in common with Kirstyn is she's a doctor, a doctorate. So she has some questions for you. Also, I'll hand over to her now.
Well, one thing that I was curious about, just as you were talking about so your daughter and that kind of connection to another dimension, if that's something that, if part of that, kind of seeing that in her was part of your inspiration in some of this that the things that you've been seeking and studying, or if you feel like more that you've had this draw and then that helped you kind of see that in your daughter. So it's just something that kind of came up as.
Yeah, it's kind of been a trade-off. Like it's been kind of part and parcel with each other. I mean, my interest in meditation started after I had the Crohn's surgery, right? Like it started to develop and evolve. Antonia has been, I'm learning as I go with her as well. And I find now that she is kind of after she entered adulthood, and I started learning more. So it was kind of like we journeyed this together that um, I feel like there's some form of telepathy there. Like we have a very strong connection, and rightly so. I think any mother and daughter would have, when a child grows inside your body for 9 months, there's a connection immediately. So I feel like I've always had a connection with her, but it has definitely evolved as I've evolved in my learning of how, metaphysics works and so on. And I really feel now, and I did an experiment actually when I saw her. We went for the swim a few nights ago, and I really focused and concentrated, connecting my pineal gland to hers. So the pineal gland is like a little set of rhombohedron crystals that are in kind of if you took a beam of light and shone it through your in between your two eyes, you'd hit the pineal gland. And it's kind of our seat of consciousness, if you will. And so I tried to see if I could make a connection from mine to hers. And so in my head, I just said Antonia, or I didn't even say it was Anton's. So I have nicknames for her. So, and as soon as so I focused, concentrated, and I did that. And as soon as I did that, she turned and looked at me. And I was like, okay, potential coincidence, right? But it's something that that I'm now exploring with her. But it's evolved to this point. So I would say it's kind of a combination of evolution on both our parts, right? So, and of course, my awareness is really heightened around anything that's metaphysical, thanks to the studying that I've done. So, it's I figure energy. We're all energy. Everything is energy. Why not see if there's a way to connect? And I really do feel that the human race has the ability to do more than what we do on a different dimension. And yeah, sorry, now I'm going off into to a tangent.
That's
Very,
wonderful.
very easy to do on this subject for me.
Well, and on this subject, we'd love to hear more about the thesis that you just wrote and it was accepted and all of
Yeah,
so
yeah. No,
I'd like to expand on that a little.
for sure. I'm really excited. It's so funny because when I was a kid, my family used to call me Dr. Denise, but in the context of a medical doctor. So I was a candy striper over at Children's Hospital for a few years when I was like, I don't know, like 12, 13. Quickly figured out that the medical field was not for me. It was just not, it was, yeah, it's definitely not for me. So, and it's just ironic that now and most of my friends will refuse to call me Dr. Denise. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. So, but it's 6 years in the making in that I started my bachelor's and obviously got the master's and then worked into this. And so my thesis that I had to defend was, and I had to actually write down the title because I made it so complicated that I have to just kind of take a moment to even just remember the title. So the title is Quantum Consciousness, a Transformative Energy Healing Approach. And the thesis itself is it proposes that transformative energy healing is a multidimensional process grounded in quantum consciousness. So one that doesn't just unfold with oneself or yourself, but is in an energetic relationship with people, places, so maybe sacred sites or so forth, and also our living planet or our earth. So it explores kind of those three arenas, if you will. And I really enjoyed writing it up until I haven't written a research paper in 30 years. So, up until the last week, I'm double checking, triple checking. It was really, really, it was wonderful to write because I had a lot of personal experience, especially with sacred sites and things like that. So the goal is to be able to take that dissertation and turn it into a book. So I'm exploring that right now to become an author at one point. Yeah, and so it's a very interesting subject, certainly for me. Maybe not for everyone, but so yeah, and then the goal is to take my meditation business and evolve that as well. So
Amazing. Yeah. So kind of along those lines with the maybe say the meditation business or so forth, being able to take these concepts and integrate them into day-to-day life, what does that look like for yourself, for the people that you support, assist?
yeah, well, when I say I want to evolve, and so my business is Magical Pathway, and what I've been doing is I've been teaching meditation classes. So, at various venues and studios. And what I'd like to evolve it into, and it has evolved actually since I've started. So during COVID, I really got into sound. I don't know what I thought was going to happen during COVID if we were going to be locked away for like years and years. But I've always had an electric guitar. I've always had uh, some other instruments as well, alternative instruments. But I ended up ordering like a full size piano keyboard, a drum kit, a violin. Like it just, and if you looked at the room that I have all
One woman band.
it's good. And I mean, it just doesn't stop. And then I go to things like the winter harp and I'm now, I get to know the percussionist and I am, it's crazy. I've got drums. I've got, I can't even like, it's just, and I love it. Because I'm of the belief, of course, that everything is vibrating at a certain frequency and those frequencies help heal us. And so so a lot of the work that I've been doing around meditation or teaching meditation involves sound, and also being able to help people visualize. So there's some breath work there, of course, but to start off with, but it's also creating like a guided meditation that allows people to visualize and to kind of leave the physical body temporarily and to be able just to explore beyond that. And sound really helps imbue that concept. So what I've started doing is what I call sacred sight sound journeys. And I've done one to Egypt. And the participants, the first one I did, because I use the gong as my kind of final sound, if you will. So I do the guided meditation. But before that, I actually show, and I keep wanting to say slideshow. That just tells you my age. So don't use slides anymore. But so it's with my iPhone, the photos from going from the Giza Plateau into the Great Pyramid and into traveling into the King's Chamber and staying there for that meditation. So people see a visual before they actually do the guided meditation and have the sound. So, because what I've heard is a lot of people are like, you keep saying visualize, visualize. But surprisingly, a lot of people have a hard time visualizing something that they either they just haven't seen at all, or they haven't seen that in a while. And so we just assume creativity and imagination just come like that. And it doesn't sometimes. So I thought, why not create a visual right at the beginning? And it's only supposed to be 15 minutes or something. Well, half an hour later, because everyone was so interested in Egypt, which was super cool. But anyway, the experiences, the goal is the participants are experiencing, there's no expectation. They're experiencing what they're supposed to experience. So there's no expectation of what's going to happen, but maybe you set an intention, right? So if you have something physical that is sore part on your body, or you need to release an emotion, or you want some mental clarity, or whatever it might be. So you can set an intention, but there's no expectation. And then the feedback I got after the first session was unbelievable. The experiences people had, with the goal being that you're feeling like you're making one step towards whatever it is you want to help yourself with. I am not a believer in people coming back to the same thing, and me going, oh yeah, you'll need me. You need me to keep doing that. You don't. And I want to empower people to be able to do that for themselves. And that's where I think, when I think about where my heart is with this, that's really what my goal is just to be able to help people help themselves. And every journey is different. Like the next one I'm doing is Glastonbury Tour, or the Chalice Well and Glastonbury Tour. And, I've been really fortunate, right? And that I've been able to travel to all these wonderful places. I'm well aware of that. And so for people who don't have the ability, whether it's, financially, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, this gives them an opportunity to be in a place that is considered a sacred place, and to have an experience that they would never normally have if they weren't doing this, right? So anyway, that's kind of, well, I want to say that's long-winded. I guess all my answers are long-winded.
Quick question here is, how can people contact
Yeah.
you?
So right now I'm working on a website. I don't know what I thought creating a website on Canva would be like. Like I'd just be able to hit a few buttons and away no, it just doesn't work that way. So the best way for people to reach me is through my phone number, or through my email, or through Facebook. So Magical Pathway is my company. So magicalpathway.com will take you directly. It will eventually take you to my lovely website. But right now it takes you to Facebook. So my Facebook page. And then on that Facebook page, it has all my contact information, my email and my phone number. One other thing I'm wanting to do, because I have a formal education in this, because how do I say this? So that's great for people who the sacred site sound journeys, any meditation work. I've been fortunate enough actually to be hired by Van Dusen Botanical Gardens. So I'm very excited about. I'm doing 2 seminars.
That's amazing.
Yeah, one in July and one in August. So I'm on the map. I'm pretty stoked about that. And
Private.
part of the market that I would like to work in, because I work in a corporation where there's and the corporations like the one I'm in have lots of wonderful programs, because it's a national company. So it's great if you have that. A lot of corporations don't, or a lot of organizations don't. So being able to expand some of the courses I'm designing into that corporate wellness environment. And so I do a lot of work with the Terminal City Club. I'm a member there and I have been for the last 8 years. So I'm their meditation teacher for all intents and purposes. And so, there's a different clientele, right? It's a business club. So it's a little bit more strategic by way of offering more stress relief, right? And some good usable information that is helpful either in the workplace or for your own business, or it's all to help yourself. But to be able to bring that into a corporate organizational environment, I think is really important. And it's very important to me to offer that.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Mm.
What should we be asking you that we haven't asked as yet?
um, I mean, if I had to formulate my own question, and it's kind of backed on, I'm sure you've asked this before, is if I could go back in time, right? And I wouldn't change anything. I'm so glad I have the life that I have. I mean, I guess the one thing before I was thinking, like, what I would say to myself if I was, if I go back in time and talk to my younger self or older self. But the one thing actually that I just experienced health-wise in November of 2023, I lost my vision. I started with a week of severe headaches. I don't get headaches. This is right before the long weekend in November that year. And the last set of clients I saw, instead of 2 of them, there were 4 of them. Like, my vision had gone so double that I could barely see my hand in front of my face, and I had a hard time walking. And finally, my good friend Sheila said, "This is enough now," over the weekend, and because it was getting worse. Um, because I just chalked it up to stress, right? Oh, I'm stressed out. I just need to relax. And it just kept getting worse. So she took me into Emerge and everything was great. There were no issues except for the fact that they discovered I had type 2 diabetes. And I felt fine for like 15 years. Did I take some liberties with my diet because the Crohn's disease didn't exist anymore? Yeah. Cakes, cookies, candies, you name it. Not an excessive amount, but uh, yeah, I had my fair share. Because the reality was, if I had a stressful day, this piece of cake, I deserve that piece of cake, right? And that was my thinking. Anyway, suffice it to say, I was very sick for some time. My A1C was like at 13, which is like more than double what it should be. So I'd maybe I'll just chalk it up to Gen X. I don't know. We just deal with stuff, right? Something comes at you, you just deal with it. So I changed my diet, my exercise. I went on a diabetic program that helped me understand what was happening to me. Within 3 months, my vision started getting better. Now I can see without any issues at all. I have perfect vision. At 54, I don't even use reading glasses, so I'm very grateful for that. And I exercise, I eat right, I do everything I can to keep myself, healthy and well. But when they didn't know what was wrong with me, it was she might have a tumor. Did she have a stroke? Is there an aneurysm in her head? Right. So lots of really frightening terms kind of going around. And you know what? If I had just gone for blood work like each year, like you're supposed to, or every couple of years or whatever, that whole situation could have been avoided. And so, yeah, it was ridiculous that I didn't, but I felt fine. And so I told people this story, in my different parts of my life. And I had 3 people come back to me. They got their blood work done because they also had left it for a while. And I had lots of people do that, but 3 of them came back and got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And so I'm a big believer. If you're wondering why I'm such an open, like, there's nothing like sharing what your A1C was. Like, I don't care. I would rather share and help and see even if it helps one person go, oh, wow, maybe I should get my blood checked, or, if it helps someone, then I'd rather share. But it's been a very challenging journey in the sense that I lost all my weight loss came from my muscles. So I started pulling muscles. I couldn't walk for 2 weeks. I couldn't because I tried leg pressing 100 pounds like I used to. And that didn't work. I was supposed to go to the Sum 41 concert. Everyone who knows me knows this story and is probably sick of hearing it. Had a wonderful, wonderful ticket to see a punk band that I have loved as long as I can remember. Their last tour, their last actual date of play was in Vancouver, and I missed it. Why? Because maybe it wasn't their last date, but it was their final year. And because I couldn't move my arm. My right arm was what I had done, my muscle was so strained and atrophied. So and I could go on. So if I had any advice to anyone around health, is to definitely get your blood work done, get checked out, no head in the sand. It's not just stress. Stress has a way of really hurting you. And I learned that the hard way. And, Antonia has always been my kind of my light at the end of the tunnel. And so I'm really grateful that I'm okay. Things could have been very, very different. So that was the one, if you had the answer to the one question that you might not have asked, and that was about my recent health situation. So, wow.
Something I've been thinking as you've been sharing is I really appreciate how grounded you are when it comes to, I mean, even as you're talking about these different medical pieces and like having gone through the surgery, taking care of, with diet, exercise, and also this capacity to go to these deeply spiritual, transcendental places. And I think that's a really beautiful balance that you hold. And so, yeah.
Well, truth be told, and I appreciate that. Thank you. However, if you had seen me after I got the diabetes diagnosis, I was a train wreck, and I was a train wreck for quite a while. It was a very scary, emotional time, but I do like to think that I was able to pull it together, to start logically sorting things out and recognizing not to be too hard on myself. And, that okay, something happened, you have to deal with it. And it's okay if you're, crying at every little tiny thing, or if I'm doing that constantly for a few years, that maybe is a different issue. But I definitely feel very grateful that I was able to kind of pull from some of the background I have to manage some of these very adverse situations. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, as I mentioned in the introduction, you're a truly inspiring person, and just hearing this is amazing. And I from personal experience also, I can say that it's when the worst tragedies or the worst things happen, and you don't just go to the lowest, but you break into little pieces. It's the worst thing that can happen, but it eventually when you come back together, you come back stronger and better than before, right? You're a living example of that. You've accomplished so much. You've done such wonderful things, and you're in a beautiful space or chapter in your life right now. It's amazing. What does the future hold for you? What does your future look like?
Well, I don't know. And the interesting thing is being a planner my whole life. And I'm talking like you saw the trip I took to Holland, to the Netherlands. Like, my dad is from the Netherlands, and he's like, I lived there and I didn't do half of what you did. Um, it's really for me about just letting go and kind of surrendering a little bit to like going through the thing 25 years ago with the Crohn's disease was put in perspective quite some time ago. The most recent health issue with the diabetes, and then February I had atrial flutter as well, so that was fun. So my heart rate kind of yeah, I can't even anyway. So but it really puts things into perspective as to what's important in life. And so I am trying to go with the flow. I tell my students that all the time. I we're what, close to 80% water. When I go in the ocean, I feel connected to that water. I feel water has a memory. It's not me that's coming up with this. Dr. Masuro Emoto, Masuro. Anyway, I think he is the gentleman who was able to see that water actually does carry a memory. I feel embarrassed that I'm not saying his name right. Anyway, so I'm trying to really practice what I preach, and I have, but I'm doing it more so now. Where you live, so when I think about what I would see going forward, and I actually made some notes about this because I say this kind of stuff all the time, and I really need to embrace it myself. And so my thinking is there's no right or wrong way to live life as long as you're not hurting yourself or anyone else. I am trying, when I go forward, trying to live more and more in the moment. For me, that reduces stress and increases the happiness factor. And just being a little more open to what comes my way, and just to stop planning everything, right? Still doing some planning, right, for Mexico in January, but but just kind of going with the flow a little bit more, and learning to spend time with people that I want to spend time with, and not because I feel obligated. Parents are obviously a different thing, but I actually enjoy spending time with my mom and dad. Um, they do drive me crazy, but being a little bit more careful of where my energy is spent, and being able to help as many people as I can, like that to me would make me very happy going forward. And just really enjoying that feeling. And this is just the most stupid example, but I'm probably the oldest person that still goes to the Blarney Stone. Now I go with my friend David, who's actually older than me. So so he's the oldest person if we go together. Everyone else is easily 30 to 35 years my junior. I can dance
We went there together.
you've been, yeah, you've been. Yeah, I love it. I can dance anyone under the table. I love it until about midnight, and then the watch tells me it's bedtime, right? So, but watching those people all the, I'll call them kids, watching all those kids having fun, dancing, smiling, I feed off of that energy. And so those are kind of, being in those environments where you can actually see how, like when people come up to me after a meditation and go, wow, or call me the next day and say, you know what, I had this real, pain in my hip and I really feel that the gong made it, like anything like that. I just am overflowing with happiness to hear that. Really. It just makes my day. And of course, making sure I'm grateful. I mean, gratitude is huge. For me, it helps. I see it helps people manifest their goals. Kind of keeps you in the moment, right? And stops stops you from focusing on the past or being anxious about the future. Um, it just really matters to be as grateful as possible. It begets more gratitude in my mind, like being grateful for being grateful, right? And I always say, and I've said this many times, you have one life on this planet as yourself. Make it count and don't put off what and this is coming from a financial planner, okay? I'm like, just spend it all. No, but I've seen people save, 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 do nothing, 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 retire. That's when they're going to do it all and then pass away 2 weeks into retirement. And so to me, there's a happy medium between enjoying life now, but keeping an eye to the future. And, when I think about, if I could go back in time, like I mentioned, if I go back in time, you know, don't wait to take that trip. If you can, take it. To me, it gives you perspective. And I wish I had started traveling when I was younger, but then of course you have to have the financial wherewithal to do that. And if I could go back and save as much money as humanly possible, and it's hard again when you're young, but that power of compounding it really matters. Um, and I've had times with Antonia where I really needed people not to judge the situation that they were seeing. Um, and I've learned from that. You never know what someone's going through, and you don't unless you know the situation. I would be a little more careful with that judgment. Um, and as women, I find, and I'm obviously speak to Kirstyn specifically about this, but as women, we're always taught you got to do everything for everybody, right? And then it's very selfish if you start doing things for yourself and putting yourself first. But I don't agree with that. I think if you're not okay, then how are you going to be okay for anyone else? Right? Like I've really thought about that when it comes to Antonia, right? And so I don't feel like I'm being selfish when I take the time to take care of myself, because how am I going to be okay for her then, right? If that's really my goal. So anyway, and now I'm rambling again. What a surprise!
100%.
Yeah. Thank you. This has been fulfilling and educative conversation. It's been wonderful.
Very inspiring. Put me on a pre-sale for your book.
After your course.
Yes, for both.
Thanks. Well, I have to pay the compliment back to the two of you as well. Very fortunate to know you both. Very fortunate to be part of your world. And thank you for even taking the time to spend time with me and ask me about me.
You're a fascinating person, and I think a lot of people benefit from just knowing you. And if someone signs up with you, they'll definitely benefit. And one thing's for sure: next time we're in Vancouver, we'll go to Blarney Stone together with you.
Fantastic. Let's do that.
Compliment.
Yes. I'll turn off my watches. Like there's nothing like dancing away and then I look at my watch and it's like, it's your bedtime. Okay. Oh my gosh. Anyway, thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes,
so
thank you,
much.
Denise.
Thank
It
you.
was wonderful.
Thank you. Take care.